Today's number 21 most urgent vulnerability is CVE 2026-71921, and it earns attention because the impact is direct. A remote attacker may be able to execute arbitrary commands as root on affected DrayTek VigorSwitch devices before logging in. That is the kind of flaw that can turn a network management device from infrastructure into a foothold. This is the Daily Ranked CVE Brief, what to patch first, ranked by real exploitation signal from CVE, first EPSS, and CVSS, every day. This one is not currently listed in CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, but it has a critical 9.8 CVSS score and a high EPSS percentile signal, so defenders should not wait for public incident headlines before taking it seriously. The affected product family is DrayTek VigorSwitch, specifically multiple models according to the official description. The vulnerability sits in the setget.cgi interface and is tied to insufficient filtering of the pass field before command execution. In plain English, the device takes input that should be treated as data, but that input can instead influence operating system command execution. That maps to CVE-2026-71921 command injection. This weakness matters because the boundary between a web request and the underlying operating system breaks down. Instead of only changing an allowed setting or returning expected data, crafted input may cause the device to run commands. The official description says a remote attacker can trigger this pre-authentication and execute arbitrary commands with root privileges. Verdict: this is a critical, remotely reachable, no-login path to root-level command execution on affected switches. The CVSS vector is 9.8, and the two metrics that matter most are the attack vector and the privileges required. Attack vector is network, meaning the vulnerable surface can be reached over a network path, rather than requiring physical access or local shell access. Privileges required is none, meaning the attacker does not need a valid account first. User interaction is also not required, so there is no dependency on tricking an administrator into clicking something. The impact ratings are high for confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which fits the root command scenario. Data can be exposed, configurations can be changed, and device availability can be disrupted. CVE's status is false for this brief. So we are not saying CISA has cataloged active exploitation. But CVE is not the only signal. The EPSS percentile is 0.87373, which places it high relative to many scored vulnerabilities. Combine that with a 9.8 CVSS score, and the nature of the bug and the operational priority becomes clear. Network infrastructure and management appliances often sit in trusted positions. If an attacker obtains root-level command execution on a switch, the concern is not only the switch itself. The broader concern is visibility into traffic, tampering with configuration, disruption of connectivity, and potential use of the device as a platform for further activity. Even without confirmed CVE listing, exposed management surfaces deserve immediate review. At a conceptual level, the path is straightforward, which is why this class of vulnerability is so dangerous. The attacker first needs network reachability to the affected management interface. If that interface is exposed to untrusted networks, the risk increases sharply. The vulnerable component is setget.cgi, and the issue is in how the pass field is filtered before command execution. Because the flaw is pre-authentication, the attacker does not need to sign in first. Because it is command injection, the danger is that input intended for an application parameter crosses into operating system command context. We are not walking through payloads or exploitation steps, but defenders should understand the defensive model. Any untrusted path to that interface is a potential path to root-level device control on affected versions. Start with inventory. Look for DrayTek VigorSwitch devices in your environment, especially switches with web-based management enabled. The advisory references multiple VigorSwitch models, but exact affected models and fixed versions should be taken from DrayTek's own advisory, not guessed. Record the model, firmware version, management IP, and who can reach the management interface. Then check exposure from a network perspective. Is the interface reachable from the public internet, guest networks, partner networks, or broad internal user segments? Is access limited to a dedicated admin subnet or VPN? Also check whether the device is behind filtering that actually blocks access, not just a policy that says it should. If you cannot quickly prove a device is unaffected or protected, treat it as needing attention. The first remediation step is to follow the DrayTek security advisory and apply the vendor-recommended update or mitigation for your exact model. Do not rely on the CVE summary for version decisions. Use the vendor source. While patching is planned, reduce reachability immediately. Management interfaces should not be open to the internet, and they should not be broadly reachable from ordinary user networks. Place access behind a VPN, jump host, or dedicated management network where appropriate, and enforce firewall rules that allow only authorized administrator sources. Because the vulnerability can execute commands as root, also review device configuration for unexpected changes. Consider rotating administrative credentials as a precaution, especially if exposure was broad. After patching, verify the firmware state, confirm access controls, and keep monitoring for anomalies. For detection, focus on what should be normal for these devices. Administrative web access should come from a small set of known sources, at predictable times, by known administrators. Look for requests to the management interface, especially setget.cgi, from unexpected IP addresses or network segments. Watch for repeated unauthenticated probing, unusual request patterns involving the pass field, or access attempts from places that should never manage switches. On the device and network side, investigate unexpected configuration changes, new or unusual outbound connections, sudden reboots, unexplained CPU or memory spikes, and changes in traffic behavior. If you centralize logs, correlate management access with firewall records and change tickets. The goal is not to prove exploitation from one log line. It is to identify behavior that does not match how your switches are normally administered. To recap, CVE 2026-71921 is today's number 21 ranked vulnerability, a critical pre-authentication OS command injection issue in multiple DrayTek VigorSwitch models. The key facts are simple: network reachable, no login required, and potential arbitrary command execution with root privileges. It is not listed in CISA KEV for this brief, but the 9.8 CVSS score and high EPSS percentile make it a clear patch and restrict priority. Check your inventory, confirm exact exposure against the DrayTek advisory, update affected devices, and lock down management access. If this helped, subscribe to the Daily Ranked CVE Brief. We cover what to patch first, ranked by real exploitation signal every day. The full ranked report is linked in the description.